Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Apex Racing League launched ARL GT Americas, our first American time zone GT3 championship. Over 6 rounds, drivers will compete in a mirror series to the popular ARL GT3 trophy, racing in a mixture of formats from 1 hour-long features to reverse grid sprints. We visit some of the most popular circuits in the sim, such as Spa, Watkins Glen and Suzuka, along with offering drivers a great opportunity to prepare for the Petit Le Mans with our opening round at Road Atlanta. Races starts on Saturdays at 21:10 Eastern Time, and any driver with a D-Class road license is welcome to register and fight for over $1,500 in prizes. Sign up at apexracingleague.com to confirm your place on the grid. See you on track.
Howdy, 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 and welcome to the ARL GT Americas season. Well, the start of the season here at Road Atlanta. I'm Austin. I'm joined by Charles Bauchel with John Robertson in the production booth, and you're here live watching Apex Racing TV. Charles, it's the start of our America's GT season, and what a place to start it off at Road Atlanta. It's a timely place to start it off at Road Atlanta. And it's, I would say, giving a lot of these drivers a good head up on the season and a good head up on the upcoming weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me in. And yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. It's a sprint race, but it gives the guys time to work on their passing skills and competition in between cars, and it should be very enjoyable to watch.
It is going to be a lot of fun. I know a few of the drivers are. It's going to be, I would say, one of the smallest grids of the season so far. The signups, though, are still open if anybody is interested in joining the ARL GT Americas season. It's Road Atlanta the first round. We do take a week break next week, give everybody time to run Petit Le Mans iRacing special event. That is next week to mirror the actual Petit Le Mans happening, well, funny enough, right now. But yes, if you want to join it, the signups are still active on our website. Go down towards the description at ARL Esports. It'll be linked in our description, and you can find all the information on what you want to raise, sign up, all the rules, regulations, and prizes available for this series. I'm going to say it's a lot of fun. I competed in a few ARL events, and they're always classic. And speaking of classic, Road Atlanta, such a very fun track. It's open qualifying right now, and this track is just, if you are a fan of maximizing circuit and just how you run a track, this is the place to do it. You got the S's that turn in at the very top of the hill by that tree and how much curb you want to take, and also heading down into the final chicane. You can really cut that corner in. You can just carry a lot of speed around here, and it's a lot of fun. As we were looking at our, well, previous pole sitter, Brian Force, he was just overtaken for pole by 2/10. That is Delago from Delta Racing. He's sitting up there, but his fellow countryman, Heigo Oliveira, takes provisional pole right now just by 1/10 of a second. The Brazilians
some really close times in there.
Yeah, Brazilians are out in the force. The two pros sitting on top. You can tell the pros away from the AM drivers by the red. And there is a new top of the chart sitter by another 10th. And another Brazilian. It's Lucas Souza, and of the Aerokinetic Pink team.
Yeah, Brazilians are kind of stealing the show here at the beginning of qualifying.
Yeah, Brazilian 1, 2, 3, and they're not, I don't believe either of them are in the same team. We got an Aerokinetic Pink car sitting on pole position. This is Dan Parmalee, one of our AM drivers. He's actually finishing his qualifying up right now. We got 10 minutes open qualifying, and Dan went out there 5 minutes and decided to head back in. This is Brian Vors of the HPDS Academy team in that 299 machine. He's currently sitting at the top of the AMs. And speaking of the top of the charts, Jeff Lewis puts in a 117.3 in the Porsche. And that gets taken away by Chris Tapeo, the Norwegian, well, Canadian driver. He's Norwegian or SDK things, but the Canadian in the 123 RPM racing machine takes pole position, provisional pole by nearly 1/10 of a second.
Yeah, a lot of times we're starting to drop.
Yeah, as qualifying is going to go down, all these times go in and be much faster. Canadian Hewins, Spencer Hewins jumps up into third place and closes that gap of third to first. very tightly competitive in our top 3, and I'm expecting all these drivers to have a qualifying setup that really makes the car go a little bit faster. You know, you're warming up the tires and making sure everything goes well. I know in the actual Petit Le Mans iRacing event, you don't get this open qualifying setup. So if you have a teammate out there, which I do believe one of these guys do, you might be trying to force a little bit of a drafting help with the car ahead of you.
Yeah, there's a couple good spots for drafting, especially down the back stretch, that you can pick up a couple of tenths if you plan it right. But yeah, it's hard to do that when you don't have a teammate out there running with you.
Yeah, then it's all about just guessing where somebody is, maybe backing off. As this is Jeff Lewis now on provisional pole. He's cut the corner and he's got an off track, and he's decided that's going to be it. But he has provisional pole by 0.03 of a second. Chris Tapeo, he's hopped into the pits as well. They're going to start out. Spencer Hewins on his out lap was actually off the track just a little bit. We also have another car that's off the track in qualifying, but top 3, well, originally we're all on their out laps now, but there is Walt Delago up into 3rd now, and look at that, top 3 within 0.07 of a second of our leader.
Yeah, it's really tight at the front of the field so far.
I'm excited to see what everyone's going to be, what everyone's going to serve up to the plate throughout the season. It's going to be very tight. I know Road Atlanta is going to be the most optimized race by everybody, because Road Atlanta Petit Le Mans is a iRacing special event that everybody seems to be preparing for right now. I don't know if you take a casual look into the iRacing hosted sessions, but Road Atlanta takes up most of all that, and it's just so you have your choice of who you want to run with at Road Atlanta and iRacing hosted, because everybody wants to do good around there.
Yeah, and it's one of those tracks that you really have to practice for, right? So you have to be very brave at turn 1 to optimize and carry as much speed as you can out. And then you've got the blind chicane at the top of the hill, which is just, you know, if you're a couple feet wide either side, you're either off in the grass headed to a barrier or you're in the air flying over the curb.
Yeah, and also there's single-seater events happening here as well. I know the iRacing IRO4 Championship is here this weekend as well. I've been doing a lot of running there, and those cars do not like bumps. And that chicane, there's always somebody tentative at that chicane, and when you're stuck behind them, especially in practice, it's always crazy. It's, oh, in the background, who was that into the wall? Was that Andrew Moran? I think that was the Ferrari of Andrew Moran, the only Ferrari in this championship right now. And I'm loving to see the spread of cars. You know, we've had the Mercedes Cup, GT3 Cup happening all of last season in iRacing. I'm glad to see the Porsches up there, the BMWs making a return. We got 2 Mercedes here, but it looks like the BMW versus the Porsche machine. So it's a German Cup here in America.
Right. Yeah, it seems like since the last update for iRacing, the Porsche has kind of climbed itself back up to the top of the list.
They made the rear end more stable, and
correct.
I gotta say, if you've seen the size of the Porsche rear end, you're just like, it needs to be a little bit more stable. That wing's bigger than a few people's dining tables. But and a qualifying, Jeff X2 Lewis is sitting up on pole position ahead of Chris Tapeo. Yoa Delago in 3rd place, followed by Spencer Hewins. The top of the AMs is Dan Parmalee. He'll be starting off in 5th place, followed by Lucas Souza. Hygo Oliveira is in 7th place, followed by Bruce Jackson. Brian Vorse, Andrew Beaver, Fernando Torres, and PJC in 12th. They're followed by Tom Briesnak and Leonardo Dragota in 14th place. They're followed by Corey Groves and Andrew Moran at the end of our 16-car grid, here to start off the ARL GT Americas season, presented by Virtual Racing School. So we are lined up on the back straightaway. Short run over through the chicane, up through the hill, to Grandma's house we go, and then to the green flag we go, as everybody's just making their last race day preps. 1 hour race on the schedule for us. And
Yeah, we should mention this is the A format, 1 hour race with
60%.
60% fuel, no reversing of grid on qualifying. There's a different race format for that.
Yeah, we got 3 race formats set up for everybody, and you know, ARL, we love to mix it up. Lights are on the pace car. It's time to get ready to rock and roll here. As pace car is off into the pit lane. Field's already spread out. Jeff Lewis has control of the field as we are green to start off this GT3 action. We already got a few drivers already going for a few of the moves. That was Delago and Lucas Souza already jumping down towards the inside and catching out Tapeo on the outside as we're side by side heading into turn 1. One of the cars getting into the grass just a little bit. Everybody keeping it pretty clean right now as we head to the top of the hill and into the chicane. Everybody going, oh, we got one car around. That's one of the Mercedes and splits the field and getting everybody into a little bit of action, but you got chaos at the start. That's PJC, Lucas Souza, and Brian Vorse all involved in there. Andrew Beaver as well in that Audi, that lone Audi, but it was the Mercedes of, I believe, Lucas Souza. That was the one that got up onto the curb, got turned around, and was just a roadblock right there. Jeff Lewis leads out the field, followed by Delago, Tapeo, Hewins, and Oliveira are top 5, but the top 4 pulling away from the rest of the field.
Yeah, Tapeo got a really bad start and held up the outside line, which caused, I think, a lot of that backing up. And then, as we saw, the Mercedes of Souza just lost it coming up into that blind chicane.
I think there was a little bit of miscommunication on when the leader was going to go. I know a few leagues, they go on green, and sometimes they do that out of respect. But here at Road Atlanta, the field is so spread out already because it's got that short pit, the short pace lap, that it kind of might have caught out Tapeo on just when he was going to go. And he might have just gotten confused with another lead because that was a very spread out start and pretty wild because the second row really got a big jump on our first row as Spencer Hewins sends it down towards the inside to Tapeo at the top of the hill.
Yeah, Tapeo's really fighting hard to try and get back up toward the front of the field.
Yeah, Tapeo's just been going backwards, but the two Porsches got to work together. They want to catch up to BMW and Jeff Lewis up ahead, but Spencer Hewins, that aerokinetic pink car, that was a highlight. That was a highlight reel worthy move right there down towards the inside. They come out of 10B and onto that long back straightaway here. It's going to bring up the top speed of these Porsches and these BMWs. I believe the BMW has the advantage on the straightaways. Am I right?
I don't know. I think the BMW probably does better in the curbing through the corners. We'll see, though. I think that the Porsches may be able to get a nice toe down the straight from the BMW in front. We'll see how it works out, though.
And also 60% fuel limit, so pit stops will be a factor. No tire changing, just going to be gas and go for these guys. New fastest lap of the race is by Jeff Lewis, our race leader. We got a fight with Bruce Jackson and Fernando Torres up ahead in this fight for 7th. Bruce Jackson sitting second in the AMS race. Dan Parmalee is up ahead. Jackson setting himself up for a cutback at the top of the chicane. And Torres, he's hit the grass on the entry. That's really set him offline. And Jackson had to back out of there, but here goes Jackson looking down towards the inside in the S's. This is a move that doesn't rarely work out. They're still side by side at the S's. A cutback, he cuts across the front nose. Bruce Jackson making that move work.
That was a great move.
That's a beauty of a fight right there, and a beauty of a move by Bruce Jackson. He saw Fernando Torres just make that mistake at the top of the hill, and it was just a little bit of feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, and hold on his BMW time. He was able to keep that BMW so planted through there. And speaking of side-by-side action, Aaron Beaver side-by-side with PJC. He's holding that inside line right there. PJC, you can see the front end damage. He was involved in that opening lap incident, and he's got that small Audi just tucked into that draft of that large BMW. And Aaron Beaver of that aerokinetic purple team looking down towards the inside for that chicane. And also got Souza right behind him, the pro, who's also involved in that incident. That's a send down towards the inside, and that's an easy position for Beaver. And Souza also looking to get a move on PJC.
The car is 13th Beaver. That Audi looks pretty strong. at least through the corners. Looks like he handles pretty well.
Yeah, I'll always enjoy the Audi manufacturing and how that car drives. It just feels right. We got a replay of our race start with PJC and Delago, and this is just during lap 1 instance. Everybody's getting a little bit too over aggressive, but that inside curve, I believe the Mercedes just tipped it, and everybody just really got off and onto the wrong foot. And we were talking about how that curve could cause a lot of problems, and everybody just might take it a little bit too tentative, but it's the start of a league race. Everyone's going to get, everyone's going to get a little bit over aggressive, and some people at the front said take it easy, some people at the back just went for it, and you got people in the middle stuck in the middle and really in a bad place. We're back to live pictures. PJC still side by side with, actually that is the Mercedes making the move on PJC, but that is Brian Vorse actually side by side with PJC. I thought that was Souza, but no, that is Brian Vorse. Vorse is a lap down. He's trying to unlap himself with PJC. So we got side by side Andrew Moran and the BMW of Dragato. They're still side by side down the S's, but the Ferrari makes himself a little bit wide and a little bit difficult to be passed by the Dragon.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's be interesting how to watch this Ferrari. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife car of the GT class, right? It's the first car that all the GT drivers get a chance to race.
It's the most popular car.
It is the most popular car. So it's just interesting because it does everything good, but it doesn't do anything great. So it's just one of those that you can always drive it. It's a very drivable car.
Yeah, it's a jack of all trades, but master of none. But it's, if you really want a good GT3 car to start off, that Ferrari Evo is such a well-handling car. I really don't have any bad things to say about the Ferrari. Is it not that fast? Yeah, it's not that fast, but in the right hands, and if you really want to know how to drive a GT3 car fast, you hop into that Ferrari. And Andrew is very confident in his pace right there. He's sitting second in his championship fight. He's trying to chase down Dan Pomeroy up ahead as they are continuing to hold off Dragota and that BMW. And that BMW, like I said, it's a little bit faster in the corners. Definitely going to be faster on the straightaways with that giant grille.
It takes in all the air.
It takes in all the air. I saw one of those BMWs on the road the other day, and I had to do a double take because that grill is just massive in real life. As we go back to the front of our field, Delago ahead of Spencer Hewins. They're all in the draft of Jeff Lewis. Looks like the rest of the top four is caught up back with each other. And also I spotted Hewins has a little bit of front end damage. Look at the front left of that Porsche. It's a little bit kinked in.
Yeah, it kind of looks like he maybe was doing a little curb hopping during the course of this race somewhere.
You usually don't see it on the front left, though. Usually you see it on the front right with that giant chicane and the curb on the outside. It might have overshot the outside curb at the end of the S's. That the curb that everyone hops on, and Bruce Jackson gets a little bit tail happy out of that chicane right there. But, ooh, that's Aaron Beaver in the wall.
I'm going to say that was probably the outside curb coming out of the backstretch chicane. Probably just lost the rear, but we'll see the replay.
Yeah, might have caught a little bit of grass on the exit. There's a dive by that BMW. And, yep, he's caught the grass.
Yep.
And boom. These cars have traction control, but traction control still doesn't work on grass.
No, it does not.
If it did, I leave it to one of the Baja teams to figure it out.
If it did, I'd have a much higher I rating.
I'm pretty sure all of us will if traction control worked on the grass. But oh, speaking of grass, we got all of these drivers dipping it onto the grass as the BMW is under pressure by the Porsches. Hewins onto the outside, right onto the bumper at the Payo. It's looking down towards the inside. And speaking of down to the inside, here goes Hewins, the Canadian on the Brazilian. But the BMW just able to cut across the front nose and be a little bit more dicey around that first turn right now is a 3-car fight for second place, falling away from Jeff Lewis at the very top of our leaderboard.
I will say this, that BMW M-Power is managing to keep that car in front of those two Porsches. I would have thought that the Porsches would have had the speed advantage just because they just tow so well on the straights, but the BMW's done a great job to hold them up.
Yeah, Johan Talago is such a good driver. I've seen him drive in other series before. He just knows how to keep everybody behind him. Him and we've actually driven against each other a few times as Spirits and Hewins. Watch him get set up right here. He's going to be forced down towards the inside. There's grass on there, and he's just forcing him to be making these mistakes. He's got a good line down towards the inside. It's going to be a send up onto the inside, but the BMW just goes later off the brakes and able to hold Spencer Hewins behind him. And he's pretty much got to reach it down into the, Racer's magic bag of tricks to try to find a way around Delago. I'm going to be honest. I will not be surprised if Spencer Hewins goes short on this opening run and tries to pull a undercut right here, because that BMW, it's already wide enough, but in the hands of Delago, it's going even wider.
Yeah, that's like a smart strategy, is trying to undercut and pit a little early, and maybe you can make up time when you're not behind the guy. But I mean, he's done a great job. His defensive driving is pretty amazing, and then the BMW does have a really good brake package, so he can go a lot later on the brakes than the Porsche, I believe.
Yeah, the Porsche is one of the more squirrely cars on the brakes, rear engine and everything. And if you want to get that Porsche around this BMW, you're going to have to, A, get into a very good run coming out of a corner section, or get that draft just nailed just right, or maybe use a lap guard to your advantage. But in this 16-car field, I highly doubt that will be the case. We're going to see Hewins once more. I'd say he had a good opportunity with that little grass patch that he hit last time by. It really defeated that opportunity, but this time he's not even going to go for the fight, as he's just going to stay on the back of that BMW, try to use that draft and try to pull away from Tapeo, because if they start fighting, Chris Tapeo might hop in there and give a little bit of excitement. Speaking of excitement, a little bit of lawn mowing for the Porsche.
Right. Well, he's trying to the inside again. Just can't make that move work.
That BMW is so planted around the outside. He's leaving the space. He's being they're being both very gentleman-like, very kind with each other, as that BMW, he's in the rallycross line.
Yeah, it might be a good idea for Hewins to just kind of hang back and just maybe fuel save behind the BMW, make his pit stop even shorter. Absolutely.
Use as little fuel as possible, going where everybody else at. And speaking of going into the pits, Lucas Souza is heading into the pit lane. Lucas was involved in that opening incident. You can see the damage that he's had of the Aerokinetic Pink 106 Mercedes, as well, Hewins set up onto the outside now, but he's extremely close. He's going to have a good opportunity. Is he going to set up for the outside move and set himself up for the inside line on the second part of that chicane? It definitely could work right here, as Hewins, he's got his nose ahead. Are we going to be seeing that send by Delago? Delago goes early onto the brakes, turns in early, cuts across the nose. Delago from behind, able to make that BMW fly on the brakes and just stay ahead of Hewins. Spencer Hewins is probably shaking his head like, what do I have to do to get past this Brazilian?
That was a great cut over the chicane. That's about a 50-50 chance of it working. So I think the BMW made a great move, but I think he also got a little lucky.
Yeah, Hewins left a lot of space on that inside line. He was expecting a send by that BMW, but if he was able to hold it around the outside, that would have been Spencer Hewins' corner with that right-hander coming out of the chicane. But Spencer Hewins is putting a lot of pressure on Delago, and this is allowing Double J Jeff Lewis to pull away in front of everybody else as we are on to the back straight once more. And look at the setup on the 144. He's just about 3/10 behind him. This is going to be giving him a big opportunity in that draft to probably set up for another move. But I feel like he's just going to have to just try to catch Delago in a little bit of surprise. But when you think about Porsche versus BMW advantage, it's hard to pinpoint where that Porsche advantage would come from.
Yeah, he's gaining about, I was watching the SDK Gaming, he's gained about 1/10 and a half down the back straight just in the toe. So but he was 3/10 behind coming out of the corner. So he's just going to be, nailed to his back bumper if he's going to make hope to make a pass down the backstretch.
Yeah, he's going to have to be right in that gearbox and making sure he doesn't make contact with him and just gets the best setup coming out of that final corner. Is this a Dan Parmalee? Our leader has, oh, here we go. Hewins at the top of the chicane, able to make that move work. I think Delago might have hit that inside curb at the top of the hill and got set up a little bit wide because Tapeo was buried in that gearbox, and Hewins is able to sneak right through there. Hewins is into second place.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see a replay and see what happened there, if he made a mistake or if it was just a really brave move by the Porsche.
I think it might have been a little bit of a mistake because Hewins heading into that corner was on his bumper, and it didn't look like he was setting himself up for the move. And yeah, he's actually broken early, and then we see that he's just gone wide.
He went wide.
He got wide, caught a bit of the grass, and also murdered a few cones right there. He's going to be fined for that. Those cones are hard to set up. Spencer Hewins now sitting in second place, and here comes Tapeo. Tapeo looking down towards the inside of Delgado. So they go side by side, flying through that final corner. BMW on the outside, Porsche on the inside, side by side, door to door, heading into turn one. And Tapeo is able to clear him. Yeah. RPM racing machine of Chris Tapeo. Fantastic move right there. And now the two Canadians, it's now a 1, 2, and 3 for Porsche, as Porsche is going to get their mandatory iRacing shout out right there. As, hey, when you build a great car, Porsche is just always smack dab in the middle. Smack dab, thumbs up. Also, it's odd to see, but we got three Mercedes trailing the field.
That is strange. Normally they'd be on the other end of that.
They were all involved in an incident, though.
Yeah, I guess that's something, right?
There's a reason why they're down there, yeah. But if you follow the meta of the iRacing OP cars list, which I believe is a thing that somebody has made, you're gonna look at this and be like, what did they do?
Right, exactly. Yeah, once you start making unapproved modifications to your aero,
it's not going to work.
That's right.
We've seen this in prototypes. If you start missing a wing, you go faster on the straight, but you're going to make it into these corners.
So I think at this point, Delgado just kind of do a little mind reset and start getting back on his marks. He was running really good pace before he made that mistake. So he's just got to get back in his rhythm and see if he can start making up ground.
As Tapeo is falling down the field. I think Tapeo might have been off track. Yeah, there's Tapeo right there at the top of the chicanes. He's coming out of the S's. I already know what's happening. He's caught too much of that curb, the grass on the outside. And, we already seen this happen at the end of the chicane, but he's going to take a lot of curb right here. Oh, he's actually turned too much already into there. So that Porsche has still got a little bit of bite on the rear end. He's lost the rear end, and Tapeo falls away from that fight for second place.
Yeah, I think that maybe he took too much of the inside curb as he was trying to make that. It was a really strange spin though.
It's one of those Porsche slow death spins that every Porsche driver knows.
Yes.
You just turn it in, he just starts rotating, and you just know, there's no way I'm saving this.
Right. There's nothing I can do at this point. This car is just going to make a circle.
It's out of my control, and you just pray that you just don't hit the wall or somebody else. Moran trying to chase down Fernando Torres up ahead of him.
Yeah, I think Moran's doing a really good job with the Ferrari. I think now that he's got a couple of the other cars he's not fighting with anymore, I think he's actually making time up on Parmalee.
Last lap by Andrew was a 19:01. That was 5/10 faster than Fernando Torres up ahead of him. So he's definitely making the inroads. And Fernando in that Porsche is probably feeling that car get a little bit more twitchy right now. We're closing on 20 minutes. And sometimes these guys just have the car to set up for a little bit specific part of the track, but, you know, we saw what happened with that Porsche. Is probably getting a little bit eager and light on fuel very soon. We're expecting these guys to start heading into the pit lane. We got 60% fuel, so in all reality, about 40 minutes is when we're going to start seeing everybody head into the pits. But if somebody's going to try to go for that undercut, this is when that pit window will start opening up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Though, in any case of anybody wanting to go for that undercut, I do not see that actually happening, because Spencer Hewins is gotten past Delago, and Delago is actually under pressure by Hugo Oliveira.
Yeah, I mean, Hewins finally got past Delgado and just checked out. He's got like a 4.5 second lead.
Yeah, he knew he was faster, and now he's putting in some inroads on Jeff Lewis. That gap has fallen down to 1.3 seconds. Last lap by Spencer Hewins, if you're a numberologist, 1:17.77.
Full house there. 7's over at once.
Yep, 7's over, jackpot indeed. And the comparison to Jeff Lewis is about half a second faster. And he's getting that time, it looks like, through Sector 2. Because this lap, he's gone about 0.2 faster through Sector 2 before Hewins, then Jeff Lewis.
Well, with the same equipment, then it's either going to be just the driver comfort in that sector of the course, or maybe just a better setup that handles all those curves and cornering better.
Nearly identical times set by both of the drivers. This time, 0.04 of a difference. Jeff Lewis, it looks like he's more comfortable in the first and last sector, but Spencer Hewins just looks like he's more comfortable in this sector alone, because that Porsche just looks locked up right here.
Yeah, maybe he's added some wing to that setup and got a little more downforce so he can handle all this cornering better than a car that may be trimmed out for straight line speed.
Absolutely, and I do not blame him for that. That Porsche, you want to maximize that rear wing and just make that car just be turning on a dime. You'll be slower on the straightaway, but honestly, in an overall race, he's probably got his Petit Le Mans setup in there. Most Petit endurance setups, team setups, are a little bit safer. They might be fast at one thing, but I always know this for my teams. We always set it up a little bit safer to just account for any sort of thing happening.
Right, yeah.
On the track. You always want to have that little bit extra grip, and it's probably why he's very faster, a little bit more flicky in that second sector.
Yeah, for sure. You want that car to be stable all the way around the course for 10 hours for Petit. So it's probably if he's using that set, he's probably going to be better on tires also.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty heavy on those tires ahead of him, so Jeff Lewis is going to have to worry about those. No tires expect for any of these drivers in the pit stop. If you take tires, you've done something wrong, as the BMWs of Delago and Oliveira have now closed in on each other, the two teammates of the Delta Racing cars.
Yep, this is just, I think everybody's in their groove. And so now it's just getting ready for that pit stop and that final push to the end of the race.
Yeah, pit stop and strategies while everybody else just figures out what to do and try to put a little bit of pressure on the guy ahead, and it would just start playing a little bit of mind games with the car ahead of you if they can. And now if you're the two of the Delta Racing cars, you think you're going to start working together on the straightaway, start giving the draft to each other, use a little bit of each other's draft and get that fuel saving out, because Hewins and Jeff Lewis up ahead, they're starting to close in. They're 0.6 separating each other. That gap has fallen down.
It really has. Yeah, I would definitely say if your teammates, you would want to work together and try and maximize your pace as well as maximizing your fuel economy. Because if you can take 2 or 3 seconds off of your pit stop just by taking less fuel, that's 2 or 3 seconds you're going to gain on the track, which may make the difference between finishing fourth and finishing on the podium.
Bruce Jackson and Dragota side by side. Jackson setting it down towards the inside. Dragota on the outside. He cuts across the front nose. A beautiful move by the Aerokinetic purple team. Driver Bruce Jackson at 264 for that move. Back to our fight for the lead. Spencer Hewins is on to the gearbox of the 152. Set the fastest lap of the race last time by the 1:17 28.52, 7/10 faster than Jeff Lewis last time by. He is absolutely flying in that Porsche, and he's got a good opportunity in that fight for the lead. And he has some overtaking practice so far by Delago from earlier, so he definitely knows what works and what doesn't. And I don't think we're going to be seeing a move down towards the inside, but he definitely knows how to force a mistake out of somebody.
Absolutely, yeah. And that last lap that he ran was fastest lap of the race over all cars.
Yeah, Purple in Sector 3 last time by. Purple overall with the fastest lap, and another 17.6, 4/10 faster than Jeff Lewis. And Jeff Lewis, I think that's 3 laps in a row that he's ran in the 18 seconds. So Jeff has got to get onto the ladder pedal and start getting into that groove because he's under pressure by a lot.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder if he's maybe just kind of let up a bit to try and save fuel on his own, and is not too much worried about the car behind. That he's maybe got a little bit extra, but we won't know until the end of the race.
Look after the tires, look after the pace, make sure everything is in working order because you can't overcook these tires and really oversend a car, as that's a lot of curve by Jeff Lewis. But Hewins, he is in that draft, and he's going to have a good look right here as they fly down that long straightaway heading into that chicane. I think Hewins is looking for a move right now. 2/10 separating them. Just a little bit too far out. I would say if he gets about 2/10 heading into that final corner, we are in for a good show. But Spencer Hewins likes to make his overtake a little bit earlier in the lap.
Yeah, I think he's maybe just studying the Jeff's line to see where he might can make a move later on in the race.
Absolutely. Got to study your opponents, know your opponents. Watch a little bit of the tape, and the best way to watch a little bit of tape is follow them as closely as I can.
That's it.
And Hewins actually taking a little bit of the rally across the line as well. Big hit to the curb. But you can see where Jeff got onto the brakes and Hewins got onto the brakes into that corner right there. Hewins just a little bit later and was able to close up that gap just a little bit more. So he is just staying a respectable distance behind Jeff Lewis. And he's carrying a little bit more speed through that final corner. And here we go. 1/10 separating them. And if that gap is going to be gone, as here goes Hewins. Hewins going down towards the inside. Jeff going to be forced onto the outside right now.
I think Hewins got on the throttle a bit quicker than Lewis did. And then caused Lewis, I think, maybe went a little wide. So I think that's what slowed him down at the on that last corner.
He was able to carry the speed through that corner overall is what really got him that lead. But Spencer Hewins, your new leader here at Road Atlanta for the the ARL GT Americas. As well, Jeff is still not giving up this fight. He's right onto that gearbox, but we saw this with Spencer and Delagdo. He's able to make that move and then just check out of everybody behind him. And when you got that clear track ahead of him, you just start pulling that gains, and look at that. It's already 7/10 and within about 5 corners.
Yeah, he's got that car on rails right now. That's a really stable setup under him, and he can just make that car go anywhere he wants it to go.
Anywhere he wants to, and he will. Spencer Hewins putting a masterclass right now through the S's and on track as we are closing in halfway through this race here at Road Atlanta.
I'll say this, looking back through the field, Moran's actually starting to gain quite a bit of time on Parmalee for the lead of the AM class. Gap's like a second and a half now, so he's really taking a lot of time out of that gap.
We're looking at Andrew, and that Ferrari is closing on Dan Parmalee, and up ahead, that's DePeo. DePeo is falling really down the field. I think he's actually, no, that is not DePeo. That is a Mercedes up ahead. So it's actually the 227 of Thomas Bresnak.
Yeah, just a lap down car. But he's just trying to, keep pedaling to try and finish the race strong after a rocky start.
Rocky start indeed, definitely. And, oh, yeah, we got pit stops happening as this is a replay of Fernando Torres.
Oh, yep. Just that's that happens a lot at that corner. That's one of those corners that you need. I won't say it needs to be perfect, but it needs to be very close to perfect to execute that corner properly.
It needs a lot of practice, but the double pit stops, it looks like Moran stopped a little bit too early. He was moving in his pit box up ahead as Torres is also in the pit lane as well, but pit stops already happening at the midpoint of the race. Here's Fernando Torres heading into the pits now, joining the pit stop party, and the most basic place to stop in the box if you don't know how long you go, smack dab in the middle.
That's it. Oh, I just saw
yeah,
Torres'
some drivers
car
getting
go up on
tires.
Jacks.
Yep. No tires needed in a 1 hour sprint race, but we continue on going.
As we're taking a look at PJC, P7 currently. He's about a minute behind, but he's got Groves right on his tail as they're coming down the back stretch. So they are still battling for position. And Parmalee coming into the pits for his one and only stop for this race, take fuel.
Take fuel and get out of there. That's pretty much going to be everybody's pit stop strategy. Don't think anywhere in the schedule we're going to be looking for anybody to head into the pits, take fuel, and then maybe a tires too. I don't think we're ever going to see that unless iRacing implements debris shrapnel.
Yeah,
Flats.
Yeah,
Which,
right.
If you're a fan of SCCA and been watching the runoffs, we saw that happen, and oh, that was a very unfortunate moment right there throughout the weekend. 1:17.5, new fastest lap for Spencer Hewins. And as he said, that car is on rails.
Yeah, it just keeps getting faster and faster as it's burning the fuel off.
And it's certainly not looking like any chance as Dan Parmalee is taking tires as well.
It makes you wonder if they've had a couple of spins during the race, if they're just taking it just to be safe. Maybe the car doesn't feel as good as it probably should. If they put in quite a bit of practice, they'll have a good idea of, okay, this car will probably make it, but I won't like driving it for the last 20 minutes of the race.
Or somebody's been feet, or somebody in the race, they might have asked openly, do I take tires during the pit stop? And someone just gave them a cheeky yes.
That has happened before.
It's happened before. I will raise my hand. I've done it. Corey Graves going very slow heading into the pit lane.
Yeah, the two things you don't want to ask in the chat in an iRacing race is, do I need to take tires, and how much fuel do I need?
How much fuel do I need to take tires? And if you're ever in a race with me, I will just answer yes to both.
Yep.
As you are our two leaders heading into the pit lane, top three into the pits, and now we get to see who was saving fuel, and who's got their pit strategy on lock, because entering the pits is actually a fine art, especially here at Road Atlanta, because it's a blind pit entry coming over the hill, and it's not the most practiced pit lane that a lot of drivers enter, because it's a pretty sharp entry after you hit the pit speed limiter.
It really is, and it's also one of the more dangerous ones, because you're still really in the racing line even as you're going into the pits, because especially if you're multi-class racing here, more often than not you'll potentially get killed by an LMP car trying to make your pit entry.
And also be glad that this isn't the original Road Atlanta pits. The original Road Atlanta pits are still there. They're the ones on the outside of the track that is used for the club events. That pit entry is straight down the hill, 90-degree right, slam onto the brakes. I would say it's a lot easier in the traffic-wise, but it's a lot scarier, especially if you're all racing into the pits at the same time, because it's very narrow.
Because you want to try and carry as much speed as you can in the pit entry, and 90-degree rights and carrying speed is not a good combination.
I was riding in the safety car of the Formula Regional Americas, and the pace car driver, we were at Road Atlanta, and he just basically said, hold on, because in the FIA, the safety car has to get into the pits right as the race starts, and we were basically going 120 miles an hour in a Honda Civic, slamming on the brakes and pretty much parking that thing on its nose, trying to get into the pit exit. And I've been scared in cars a few times. Mostly I'm in the control of the car. When I'm not in control, I'm glad I was under a do not talk on the radio mode, because I was praying to Jesus at that point.
I can believe it.
And pit stops, coming out of the pit stops, Jeff Lewis actually gained time on Hewins. Had a better better outlap, it looks like, because he's closed that 1 second gap down to half a second.
Yeah, actually, the pit lane time for Hewins was actually 7/10 of a second. Yeah, faster.
Did Hewins get into a little bit of traffic?
Well, it makes me wonder if Hewins' car doesn't really activate, doesn't really get quick until he burns off some of the fuel.
You know, that is honestly a good assumption, because he was struggling in the opening laps, and about 10 minutes into there, that car has turned on. But currently he's under a lot of pressure, as Jeff is getting a little bit of draft help by that Mercedes up there. And you can see Hewins, he was weaving around on the straightaway like he was on cold tires.
Right. And they do cool off during the pit stop, but they don't cool off that much. It's going to feel like it's a brand new set.
I did see a lot of grass in the area. Did he run wide at one corner, maybe?
That's possible. I didn't see it, but that's possible.
There's a lot of tire marks on the track, especially in the grass, but nothing.
Right. Yeah, it could have been he just got wide coming out of the corner down the back stretch, and got some grass or dirt on his left side tires, and he just wanted to make sure they were nice and clean before he got down to the next corner.
Jeff Lewis still trying to catch up to him. 9/10 behind Hewins. As we got a replay of what happened to Spencer Hewins. And he's got that BMW up ahead at the top of the S's, and oof.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Well, there's the grass running that happened, and why Spencer Hewins is going very slow through there. Whoa. That'll make you want to count your chickens.
Yep, I didn't see any damage on the front of the car, so maybe he escaped any kind of aero problems that he's going to have.
Yeah, I don't believe he's got any damage. It looked like a pretty innocent tap right there, but a very big heart and mouth moment.
It looks like on that last lap, the gap's kind of stabilized. I think Hewins was about a tenth faster, so maybe he's kind of reset himself and he's starting to push forward again.
Speaking of pushing, let's go to our amateur fight for the lead. Team Bruce Jackson and Andrew Moran. Andrew in that Ferrari, our current biggest mover, up 8 spots behind Bruce Jackson. That 211 Ferrari, like we were saying, it's looking very good throughout most of the track, and he's certainly in good hands right now, because Andrew has been on some good pace so far. Last lap by Bruce Jackson was a 1:18.99, and Andrew was outpacing him just a little bit by 0.2.
Yeah, so Parmley was leading before they came into the pits, and then Parmley took tires, which cost him 21 seconds in the pit, so now he's dropped down to P3 in that AM class.
As we got 3 wide action lap cars stuck on the outside. Hewins defending onto the inside, and Jeff Lewis is stuck in the middle with you. And nowhere to go, and just probably praying that lap car, Dragoda, is getting onto the brakes just a little bit earlier than everybody else.
Yeah, nice job everybody just keeping the car straight going down through there, because that was kind of hairy.
It was very hairy, and they're very thankful that the Dragon, Dragoda, was able to stay away from all that incident. And, well, it's actually kind of lit up this fight just a little bit, because they're back to nose and tail action.
Yeah, they're back well, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, they're back close together. Sorry about that.
They're back in the boxing ring. They're back in the cage match. They're back in the pool fight. I don't know.
Yeah. that will not be the first time I say something completely idiotic. But
I've been doing
we'll
this
make
for
it
5
work.
years. I know so much of saying stupid things on a broadcast. I have an entire notebook of everybody's names I've said wrong. It's not. Sometimes it's by accident. Sometimes it's by misinformation, and sometimes it's by dyslexia getting it wrong. Delgado, I am sorry.
Right. Yeah. So Parmalee, just looking at his lap times, he actually the fresh tires basically aren't really doing anything for him. He's running essentially the same lap times as the two cars in front in the M class.
Hewins is staying ahead, but Jeff Lewis is certainly starting to push and get some pressure on Hewins. Hewins is not looking on the top form anymore, and it's certainly that Porsche is not looking like it's on rails as we are closing in on 20 minutes to go here at Road Atlanta. As Jeff Lewis is just still on that gearbox, 3/10 separating them, and maybe this is the top speed difference between these two cars and the way that we were set up. Because we were remembering that Hewins was a lot faster through that sector, that opening sectors, and Jeff Lewis is much faster in the straightaways. Well, now Jeff has got the draft advantage. He's going to be like a bullet compared to Hewins.
Yeah, for sure. He's gonna make up quite a bit of time in the last sector, and then again the first sector, and it's just up to Hewins to just be defensive until he gets back into the sector that his car is stronger in. And then try and make and stretch the calm. Yeah, and then try and stretch the gap again.
1/10 separating Jeff Lewis and Hewins. Jeff putting on a big pressure. He could have an opportunity looking down towards the inside. He is going down towards the inside as a wide setup by Hewins. Flinging it into turn one. Jeff got onto the back foot of that, really sent him away. Dropping back 2/10 through turn one as Spencer still pulling away and still in control of this race here for the first round of the ARL GT Americas here on Apex Racing TV. But there is a lap car up ahead, and they're going to be catching them at, I would say, in about the start of the next lap. That's PJC, Paul Joseph Plist.
Yeah, you could definitely see. I think that from turn one through turn 5 and 6. That Hewins definitely has an advantage. That extra downforce is really helping him out in turn one. He can just hammer it through there, and then can stretch the gap through the S's. And then as we get back here, as we see Lewis just closing the gap back down 2 or 3 tenths, just on the back straight, and then he's challenging for the lead again, going back into turn one.
And also, we got to wonder when they're going to catch PJC. If it's heading into the S's, that's going to be advantage Jeff Lewis, because Hewins is going to be kind of caught out right there, and Jeff could use the lap car as a pick because he's going to have the overarching view of what's going to be the line that Hewins takes and PJC takes. And this is exactly what happened to Hewins coming out of the pit lane when he met that BMW, but he's going to be meeting him at exactly the time that he wants to, right coming out of this corner. But this is Jeff Lewis. He's going to get a good run, but PJC just stays ahead as Spencer takes a little bit of grass. PJC pulls off to the right, gets onto the brakes, and lets our two leaders continue their fight. 3/10 separating them heading into turns 10.
Yeah, just good clean racing by the car getting a lap just to get out of the way and let these guys fight for the win.
Lap cars getting out of the way, always a very thankful thing. Some do it a little bit better than the others, but when they do it, it makes all of us here in single make championships a little bit happier. Now in multi-class, it's not intended by the league organizers. Some of them say, hey, if you're a lap car in a slower series, let the leaders by. You're not racing them, but in iRacing handbook and in real life, we don't. If you're in a slower class, to stay on your line and let the faster class take responsibility and pull away.
Yeah, for sure. And there's exceptions to that. I think that even with GT3 racing, if you're paying attention and you see the guys coming, if you know that you can get offline safely, without impeding anybody. That, I think a lot of people try and do that.
You usually
but
see
then,
that on straightaways.
yeah, for sure.
As we go back to our AM fight, nose-to-tail battle for the AM's lead, just like in our pros. Going all the way down towards the inside is the BMW, Jackson, and Andrew swinging around to the outside. He's laid onto the brakes and around the outside. That Ferrari, a little bit of contact, middle of the corner, but Andrew Moran, the 211, takes the lead of the AM class.
What a great move on the outside of that corner.
He set himself up, went deep onto the brakes, and just kept it. He kept the room onto the inside and just said, if it's going to be contact, it's going to be on Bruce Jackson going a little bit deep, and that's exactly what happened. There was a little bit of contact mid-corner. Jackson's car, we saw it move a little bit left after that contact, but that was just advantage Moran right there. Andrew up into the lead.
Yeah, and then P7 overall, so he's driving a really, really good race.
Yeah, fantastic race so far. This is going to be great points, especially for the AMS Championship. The championship are scored overall, so the points are the same as the pros in overall. So he will be scored like he's scoring a 7th place, but the drivers that he is racing are all behind him. And we have a late pit stop. Lucas Sosa is in the pits. Well, it's actually, I think, his 2nd pit stop, actually, because he was in the pits from that opening incident. So I think Andrew might be hopping into 6th place, actually.
It definitely looks that way.
As this is just, I think, just running out of fuel, splash and dash, 15 minutes to go. Back to our fight for the lead, Jeff Lewis versus Hewins, 3/10 at the start of the DRS boards here at Road Atlanta. And there we go, 2/10 now, and Jeff's been really studying on how Hewins takes these corners, because Hewins, we saw how he took more speed heading through turns 10A and 10B, and really use that to his advantage. We're going to see how Jeff uses that information to himself.
Yeah, he gains 3/10 down the back stretch. The problem is that he's a half a second behind by the time he gets to the back stretch again for the next lap. If he's going to make this pass, he's going to have to be right on the tail of that lead car. So he's going to have to come up with something special through this middle sector.
Yeah, he's going to have to look really deep if he wants to try to get a opening victory at the start of the season, and especially to do it at Road Atlanta. I'd say we picked a banger of the track to start off the season. Speaking of a banger, that was a Mercedes going off the track right there. This is Lucas Sosa, and intertwining with our AM Championship leaders. So they go side by side on the back straightaway. That's going to be helping out Jackson on Andrew as he retail. Oh, Andrew back in, kicking out. Big slide right there.
What a great catch.
Wonderful save. You want to know how he saved it? He's driving a Ferrari.
That's right. Exactly right. That'd have been a Porsche. It'd have been 3 circles.
If that was a Porsche, that would have been 3 circles and probably an advertisement for a smoked barbecue.
Yes, agreed.
I'm showing my Ferrari bias right here, but hey, jack of all trades, master of none, very stable car. Side by side, Lewis, and Lewis goes around. He lost it, going for the lead. And Jeff Lewis is out of the fight for the lead, spinning around at turn 1. Here goes Delgado for 2nd place. And Jeff Lewis is probably shaking his head with 15 minutes to go, going for the lead. And too much mustard for that Porsche to handle, and slow Porsche spin.
Yep, Porsche doing Porsche things. We hate to see it.
We hate to see it.
But it is one of the downsides to that model. Is you get a lot of oversteer, especially lifting off the throttle, which is probably what he was doing as he was going through turn 1. And probably being on the inside of another car didn't help his downforce.
Yeah, absolutely. He took a much tighter line, didn't have as much grip set up. He's taking too much speed into there, and the back end just lets out. And I always characterize the Porsche as Bruce is taking a very advantage line. He's actually cut that curb in half and dipped a few tires onto the inside of the curb, but he's putting a lot of pressure on Andrew for the lead of the AMs. He wants that championship back. He wants that lead back as they're coming up on a lap car, but I always characterize the Porsche as a very happy dog at a barbecue.
That's it. Oh, speaking of...
Oh, and Bruce Jackson, a uncharacteristic BMW slide through turns 10.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very much with the BMW because it's front engine. It just wants to understeer everywhere. So when you see when the rear end kicks out like that, that's very odd for a BMW.
Oh, the worst part is right as they were entering that corner, the aerokinetic team just wrote, "Bring it home, Spencer. Come on, Bruce. P1 the amp. Let's go." That's a chat curse right there.
It is a chat curse.
And Bruce, oh, he's missed the brakes some more. He's overcooked the tires, and now that BMW is more of a boat. And it's just looking very unresponsive right now. And I feel like the tires, they're reaching their peak right now, and everyone's just driving on ice, it looks like.
Yes, I think that's part of it for sure. Especially if you're running a setup that's maybe was designed for a VRS, a sprint race that's 40 minutes, 45 minutes, where they... Yeah, that's just really uncharacteristic for that car.
Yeah, the uncharacteristics for the BMW. This is the characteristics for the Porsche. This is Jeff Lewis.
Oh yeah,
sending
sorry.
it in there. And here is Bruce Jackson. I believe John is going to give us the Bruce Jackson spin right here, as the aerokinetic team is probably want to look away from this. Here it is.
Yeah, I think he was just late on entry and just tried to correct with the steering, holding too much brake, and just kind of lost the rear there.
Yeah, that BMW. I'm going to be honest. I find the BMW very understeery naturally, so to see that happening is very concerning to me.
Yeah, really is. I mean, yeah, the BMW and the Mercedes front engine cars, they're gonna, they're being led around by that gigantic engine in front, and so it doesn't want to move. It wants to keep going in a straight line. So the front end of the car just doesn't want to turn sometimes. So
can I blame it on the grill?
You can't. Well, for the BMW, you absolutely can blame it on the grill.
It just caught too much air, was sucking up too much air, off balanced the car, and over rotated it. Make a grill that doesn't make me want to punch it.
Yeah. The M8 has a really nice grill. The new LMDH has a really nice grill that BMW's produced. That's a sexy looking car.
Yeah.
The M4 just looks like it needs braces.
The M4 looks like it looks like a beaver.
It does.
I believe I saw on Trading Paints there was a beaver M4 because you could color the grill.
Yeah. So if any of my German friends watch this broadcast back that's in my race team, I'm very sorry. You know how I feel about the BMW, but but I'm very sorry that I talk bad, on live on a broadcast.
Oh, the closing minutes of this race so far. Dan Parmalee sitting in 10th place, third in the AMS. And he's chasing down Fernando Torres just ahead of him. Fernando having an up and down day so far, as well as this connection.
That's quite possibly the scariest thing when you're doing iRacing is just
the car ahead blinks out.
Just blinks out because you don't know where it's going to blink back in. If it does, it may be immediately in front of you. It may be overlaps your car. Maybe on one side or the other. So that's just, especially when you're really trying to concentrate on racing. But it happens, There's not really anything you can do about it. It's just one of those. It's one of those internet deals.
Yeah, I would say it's the loose cannon of iRacing. In real racing, it would be random mechanical failures. And speaking of failures, or something going absolutely wrong, Corey Groves. The entire front end of that BMW is missing, and I feel like this is a case of catching grass on the outside, or just... Oh, okay.
Just missed his turn.
Okay, yeah, he's missed the corner. He's going on... Oof. Ouch.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about unapproved aero modifications not working out
That
for
would
cars.
be one of those.
That is
Yeah.
one of them. Also, if you want any smoked brisket, Corey Groves in the 271 pits has got a great smoker outside right now.
Yes. Hey, we found a use for their grill. Yeah, just wide on the entry to that corner, and it's just no room for error once you come over that crest.
I think that's the first time I've seen that. It is a blind corner. I will say that it's a blind corner. If you just get a little bit of lapse in judgment, it's so easy to do, but you just don't see that happening. As we ride on board at Dan Parmalee, last lap, new fast lap of the race by Chris DePeo, sitting in 5th place and trying to chase down Hugo ahead of him, but DePeo is behind him about.
Yeah, that was a quick
seconds.
lap. So I was actually looking at the timing and scoring, and noticed that Delgado actually was about a half second faster than Hewins in P1. So he's actually trying to close that gap up at the end of the race. He's got 5 minutes
to do it though, and he's got a wish upon a star that something happens in front of him. Dan Parmalee is wishing upon a star right now. He's got a lap car holding up Fernando Torres ahead of him, but now he's got to deal with that lap car, and that is. Well, fortunate blue flags for Dan Parmalee, as it really held up Fernando, but it didn't hold him up at all. And now Dan's going to bring it to Fernando, but Fernando, he's pulling the Back to the Future defense on him. Can't pass what you can't see.
That's correct.
Was able to keep that on. The gap between Delgado and Hewis has just dropped about by a second. Am I seeing that right? Wasn't it about 3 seconds early?
Yeah, it's actually was a second. So I don't know. We'll have to do the lap times and see if maybe Hewins got caught with some lap traffic. Well, no, because we were looking at the last car on the lead lap in Parmalee. So unless just there was another car on track somewhere that maybe held them up.
And this is where we go look towards John with puppy dog eyes and just ask, please, can we have a replay?
Yes.
Thing is, though, I think that might have just been like a lap car just having an incident, and he just had to get onto the brakes.
Yeah, maybe so. Oop.
As now Dan is getting the blinkies.
Maybe it's contagious.
I think it is. I feel like we should get away from this fight. I feel like we should get away from this fight and look at our leader. Oh, here's right behind him.
There he is.
Oh, no.
He is right behind him.
He's right behind him, and Delgado is closing in on him. Spencer Hewins might have a little bit, this might get rough for the Canadian.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if he's, because he looks like he is. Yeah, I mean, Delgado was 7/10 faster that last lap. So he's definitely making inroads in. I don't know if it was traffic, but them being side by side in front is not going to help him.
They're not going to give any way for Spencer, as Spencer is going to get caught in this fight for 9th place between Fernando and Dan Parmalee. They're weaving on the back straightaway. They're going to go side by side. Dan attacking onto the outside, and Fernando defending onto the inside. They're side by side entering the chicane. There's a set up beautifully by Fernando right there, as we see Spencer chasing him down. 1.9 seconds separate them with 2 minutes to go here at Road Atlanta. And this is going to get very spicy for Spencer Hewins and Delgado.
Yeah, definitely. There's about 2 laps left and less than 2 second gap between them. And he's closing in very quickly with lap traffic in front, who are also fighting for position.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult. And Spencer, well, he's caught him right here. This is going to be the key moment in this race. How fast is he going to clear past them? And is it going to be an easy pass, or is it going to be the third wheel in a 2-car fight? What's going to happen? They're side by side heading turn 10, and Spencer Hewins is caught up by the guardrail. Well, pretty much by the guard, as they pretty much deploy the castle gates and not You shall not pass. Delgado is closing in. Here we go. The fight for the lead is once again alive as we are 3 wide on the back straightaway. Our leader. And then the fight for 9th and 10th on the inside. And our leader, Spencer Hewins, onto the outside. He's going to try to clear all of them. They go side by side by side. 3 wide. It's Torres leading it in. Spencer Hewins has to get onto the brakes. He lets both of them pass as Delgado is on the bumper. White flag is in the air. 1 lap to go. We got a double fight for the lead.
That was absolutely insane.
It's going to get even more insane because the last lap is here. Delgado and Hewins are fighting for the lead behind these 2 lap cars that are fighting between themselves. Hewins defending by Delgado. Delgado looking down towards the inside, heading at the top of the chicane. The cars ahead, they make a little bit of a mistake. They go a little bit wide. Delgado is right there. Delgado looking down towards the inside. Here we go. Delgado onto the inside at the essence. They go side by side, but Hewins finds the smallest gaps and able to get it through there. Hewins, I swear Hewins has a mystic ball or something because there was a closing gap and he went through there. Delgado trying to use that BMW brakes, trying to send it down to the inside. Delgado for the lead, side by side. They go at turn 10 and down to the inside. That's a massive set by Delgado. And Hewins switch back over. Switchback, textbook switchback by Spencer Hewins. Alan Delgado retakes the lead on the last lap of the race. And he is still behind these 2 lap cars. Oh my gosh.
I hate that it ended like 3 corners too early. But what a great battle between those 2 guys.
I'm going to be honest.
Lots of credit.
I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of glad this ended 3 laps, 3 quarters a little bit too early because if it doesn't, I think my lung would have collapsed on itself. What a win. Spencer Hewins, crazy last lap fight, takes the win here. The first round of the America's ARL GT Series. Presented by VRS. Delgado put up a massive last lap attempt. Unfortunately, overcooked it at turn 10 and into the grass. Second place, Jeff Lewis in 3rd. Olivieri in 4th. And Chris DePeo in 5th place. As we go to our amateur championship leader, Bruce Jackson of Aerokinetic Purple. Bruce Jackson is leading the... What happened to Moran? Bruce Jackson is leading the AMS.
Yeah, Moran obviously had an issue somewhere because he's fallen all the way down the P10.
Well, the Aerokinetic team, they were very happy, looking for a 1-2. Then we saw the spin, but it's going to be a 1-2 for the Aerokinetic team as they take the Pro and the AM Championship first race win.
So, a great call by John. Apparently, Moran had to pit. I'm guessing he didn't have enough fuel.
No fuel.
So, he had to come in and pit for a splash.
And Dan Parmalee is off the track in 9th place at the final corners. Fernando Torres won that fight. Dan Parmalee in 9th, but what a end to this race.
You have to give credit to both Hewins and Delgado.
They were
just battled and was very clean. They battled side by side. It was just a great fight. And then with Torres and Parmalee, they were battling for their own positions. And as we know, iRacing, the blue flag doesn't mean you have to move over. It means you have to just allow a safe pass if you can. But it's up to the faster car to make the move.
Andrew. Flozy on the last laps have to pit. You didn't account for that final last lap. You just went to 1 hour. I've had this happen to me so many times, and it's the most heartbreaking thing. Oh, but man, Spencer Hewins and Delgado, these last 2 laps between themselves and Dan Parmalee, Fernando Torres, that 3 wide. When they were heading 3 wide into that chicane and we saw Spencer get onto the brakes earlier, I think he thought, I'm just going to have to set up for a switchback move right here and just try to do something because if I try to pass these guys, it might be too risky to keep the lead of this race. And it's going to be it was a dogfight towards the end, and I'm excited for this season. I am really excited for this season.
Yeah, if every race is like this race, we're going to have a great season here.
If every race is like this race, oh my gosh, we need to be on pay-per-view.
Well, if every race is like this race, we're going to need more commentators. We're going to burn you out.
I got Apex pays me in lung implants. I'm good. Spencer Chewins takes the win in the professional division with Bruce Jackson as well. It's an aerokinetic 1-1 in class victories. They're followed by Delgado in second with Jeff Lewis in third. Higo Oliveira in fourth. Chris DePeo in fifth, followed by Lucas Sosa. Bruce Jackson winning the AMS. Fernando Torres, Dan Parmalee, Andrew Moran, Paul Joseph Kliss, PJC in 11th, followed by the Dragon, Leonardo Dragata in 12th. Aaron Beaver and Brian Vors, followed by Corey Groves and Tom Briesnak at the end of our 16-car grid. And I believe we are all ready to just take a little... I feel like we earned that 1 week break between races, but heading into the next race, I believe it's going to be a lot of fun. And let's talk to our championship leader now, Spencer. The last 2 laps, you were fighting a race for the lead behind a roadblock. How was that?
I was also on a 19X. I had 3 back markers go on the brakes at the start of the S's in front of me 3 times, one side of the pits. Yeah, it was pretty wild. That whole race was honestly just really eventful.
It is really eventful as we go back and watch the replay of you coming out of the pits with the cars in the S's. Are you going to be glad in the next 2 weeks when you're not driving around Road Atlanta? Because I feel like this is going to be a common occurrence for you.
Yeah, that helps. It'd help if I could qualify as well. that would be unreal.
Well, next race, it's gladly not at Road Atlanta, but it is after a week break after Petit Le Mans. But this event, that last lap fight that you had with Delgado, what was going through your head? What are the differences between the Porsche versus the BMW that you noticed so far today?
I found the Porsche's tire wear was horrible. If you go through turn 1 and the last turn, you're almost nearly opposite lock sometimes. And yeah, it was really just tires in the end. The BMW and the Merc insanely fast and on a straight line.
Well, that is very informative, and that kind of explains the kind of tire wear that we were seeing by a few of the drivers and a little bit of loosey-goosey by the Porsches later in the race, but you kept it together for the win and for the double class win for the aerokinetic teams.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to see it. It's my first race for them, so, good start.
Well, that's the way to debut with a W. Spencer, before we let you go to go celebrate this win with you and your new team, anybody you want to thank?
Just thanks to Daniel. He was actually the owner from Aerokinetics that actually got me into the league, convinced me to do it. So, thanks to him. That win was all him right there.
Well, I think Tim is going to be patting himself on the back. Congrats on the win, Spencer. We hope you have a great night.
Thank you.
And Charles, I believe you are standing by with his teammate Bruce Jackson.
Yeah, Bruce, great win in the AM class. Looked like you had a very strong car throughout the entire thing. So tell us about your experience out there.
It was pretty good. The worst thing, and I felt really embarrassed about it, was when I spun twice, because I knew my teammates were probably watching, and so I'm gonna catch a rash and a junk about that. But otherwise, I just kept pressing. Whenever something happened, I just regrouped, kept pressing and kept pressing and kept pressing, and just kept telling myself, "Hey, I can do it. You can do it. You can catch them. You can do it." And I had a little help in that last lap. I think Andrew had some problems, and he may have run out of fuel or something, and I was able to catch him right before the start of the last lap.
Yeah, I think that's what we noticed was Andrew had to go in and take a little splash at the end there, and we saw one of your spins, and which is very it's very odd for the BMW to just kind of lose the rear like that.
Yeah, I was pushing on Andrew then because I was looking to overtake him on the back stretch, and he that first right-hander before the short area, I think it's turn 6. He broke a little bit. went through that corner a little slower than I was used to, so I stayed on my brakes a little longer and a little harder, and I felt the rear end coming around. And the main thing was just keeping it out of the wall, take the slide, regroup, and get going again. And that's what I was able to do.
Yeah, so great job. So is there anybody you want to thank? Because you got the 1-2 for Aero Kinetics, or the 1-1, should say, Pro and Am victories.
Yep, and I want to thank my team members, my teammates that were in this race, both on the pro side and the AM side. And I'm really sorry to one of my guys, Aaron. I don't know if I caused him the wreck or not when I overtook him on the downhill in the back. So I hope I didn't. I want to thank the other guys on the team, especially my partner who runs Aero Kinetics with me, Daniel Dennison. He was giving me some feedback earlier today after the IMSA endurance race. And I put some of those things into action during this race, and it really helped out.
Awesome. Well, great job tonight.
All right. Thank you.
That was Bruce Jackson. As we are joined by Jeff Lewis. Jeff, it was a very exciting fight for most of the race. You took the lead early on, and after the pit stops, you were overtaken heading into the pit stops by Spencer Hewins, and then after it, you're putting up a great fight. Spencer was talking about the tire wear of the Porsche, and we saw that happen at turn 1. You want to talk about the race and that slow spin in the fight with Spencer?
Yeah. So the fight with Spencer was great. He had so much pace. I wasn't actually sure how I out-qualified him, but during the race, it was a matter of trying to manage the tires because I knew at the end it was going to be slidey. So when he passed me before the pit stops, I was trying to save a little bit of fuel behind him, see if I can make a run at the end. And yeah, when I made that move on the inside, I just didn't have the rear end grip. It just came around, and I figured it's better to take just myself than slide out and accidentally take him, because that would just be awful. So I took myself on the spin, and big congrats to him on the win.
Well, you finished the first race of the season still on the podium. You finished third. We're looking at your comparisons between you and Spencer. We noticed that you were a lot faster on the straightaway. Did you set up your car to be a little bit more trimmed out on the straights, or was it just confidence in the Road Atlanta S's?
I think it was just the confidence in the S's. I mean, from the setup that I was playing with, I took one little bit of wing out. That might have helped just a tad, but yeah, I was really focusing on the corner X's to try and make sure I had a good straight speed, so maybe that might have been the case.
Well, overall, it still landed you with a great start to the season on the podium and ready for the upcoming races. After our next week break, we head to Spa, another classic with the GT3s. How are you feeling about Spa?
Beautiful track, beautiful track. Excited.
It'll also be one of our, I believe, our 60-minute. Yeah, it's another 60-minute race with the 60% fuel limit in the car. Was there a little bit setup tweaking and a little bit of strategy heading into the pits? We were expecting somebody to try to go for a undercut type strategy, or is it just too much of a restriction to even attempt that?
The thought of an undercut was there, but then you're over-fueling for the end. So my thought was, if I run it all the way empty and fill up with the least amount of fuel, I'll have the lowest fuel load possible for when the tires are worn. So the undercut thought was there, but at the same time, I also just kind of wanted to be right there with them and see if I can hang.
Well, congrats on a great race. Third place for you and a good start to your season and a good representation for you and the Hardpoint by Delta Sport team. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank?
I just want to thank all of Hardpoint by Delta... Sorry, I want to thank all of the Hardpoint by Delta Sport sponsors. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words here. That was a hard fight.
Oh, don't worry. We're the same way.
That was a tough fight. I'm hard speaking now. But yeah, I just want to thank all the sponsors and you guys for the broadcast. It was great.
Well, I'll leave it to catch your breath and your words. Congrats on a great race, Jeff. It shows up Jeff Lewis. I know it's just Jeff Lewis, but I called you Double J throughout the time, and I think I'm going to keep doing that.
Fair enough. Our team owner did the same thing. He's like, "That's funny. That's your new nickname." I said, "Okay."
All right. Well, a great debut to the season, Double J. We'll see you later.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Well, Charles, we do have one interview left. It is one of the drivers that was involved in that last lap fight, but instead of behind the fight, he was the front of the fight. Dan Parmalee. In that last lap, you had, well, I would say second to last lap for you. You had the fight for the lead behind you while you were attacking Fernando Torres. What was going through your mind, and how much sweat is under your seat right now?
Oh yeah, the heart rate certainly picked up there when I saw the leader was 3 wide with us, and at that point I'm like, wow, I'm in really unfamiliar territory over here, and I don't know how close everyone is, and I just hope for the best. And I think Fernando managed to sneak through there, and I just kind of held on from there. It looked like maybe I was going to have another shot at him coming into the final, whatever that is, turn 10 on the final lap, but it wasn't to be. But it was still it was a great fight. I had a blast.
It certainly was a great fight by you. We saw you were already fighting with each other, and also Fernando, you and Fernando were kind of having a little bit of connection issues with each other. Was that a big factor in the end of that race?
Every now and then, yeah, I would see him blink, and I assumed I was blinking a little bit too. But it didn't really affect me that much. When we got 3 wide with Hewins there, it seemed pretty stable on my end. But yeah, it sounded like someone maybe made contact as we were going into 10A. But yeah, I don't know how we managed to get through there unscathed. But it was he and I were so even. I think I was a little bit quicker the first part of the lap, but he could get through the double right before sort of the back straightaway so much faster. I don't know what kind of setup he had in his car, but mine just did not want to turn to the right.
Well, you started off this season finishing 9th place overall, but 2nd place in the AM class, and that's going to be setting yourself up pretty good in the AMS Championship heading into Spa. How are you feeling about that?
Spa's one I feel like I never really gotten comfortable with. I'll be running well, and then I'll make some mistake somewhere, and there's really not a lot of margin going so fast there. But since we have a couple weeks before that race, I'm definitely going to try to get a little extra practice in. I really love driving this car. I don't think I've ever driven this one at Spa, but definitely driven the GT3 Cup and the RSR, so hopefully some of that translates.
Just a little bit more power.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice having a little more assist in the RSR for sure, and a lot more than the GT3.
All right, well, congrats on a good debut and a good start to the season, Daniel. Before we let you go, anybody you want to thank?
Definitely give a shout out to the family. I think some of them were watching, and give a shout out to my wife for letting me come do this stuff and take some time away hanging out with her.
All right, well, congrats on a great start to the season, Dan. And I'm going to have to say a great start to the season up here in the booth, Charles. Fantastic action from start to the finish. Had a little bit of a rocky start, and then everyone got into their groove, and at the end, heart-pounding action at the end between our leaders and leaders in the fight for 10th place. Tons of action out there on the track. How are we looking for Spa on the 15th?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm going to give a shout-out to all the drivers. We had, one car, it was 3 laps down, but everybody was still out on the track at the end. They were all still trying to run the fastest laps they could. And so that's saying something. So I'm hoping that, since we still got open registration, that we get a few more drivers in here, and we'll make this field bigger, because Spa is going to be probably as crazy as this, to be fair. Especially if we get all those Porsches lined up and they're drafting up the straight, going into Lacombe at the top. It should make for some really great racing.
It really is, and I'm excited to see what happens next. Remember, signups are still open for the ARL GT Americas. First GT Americas season here on Apex Racing TV, presented by Virtual Racing School. We hope everybody enjoyed their time on track with us. We certainly enjoyed your company in the YouTube chat with us as well. Thank you, everybody, for your company tonight. I've been joined by Charles Boschel with John Robertson in the production booth, and I'm Austin Knight, and I hope y'all have a good night.